All right, we're going to get started here, guys. For those that haven't met me, I'm Greg Lingos. I'm the owner of Rockwell Development Group. We're the company, my subsidiary, Rockwell Downingtown LLC, is the one that's under agreement to purchase the property from the Downingtown School District. And as part of our agreement with the Downingtown School District, which is a public document, we had negotiated that we would build or cause to be built a swim facility, natatorium, on the site. That was important to the school district because it's something that's not currently in the school district. And initially, I knew nothing about what a natatorium was. Um, I've been lucky to meet the folks at PhilAquatics, and we have Mike and Stu here that are going to talk a little bit specifically about what this natatorium idea is. I know a couple of months ago we were in front of the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission, which is a recommending body, recommended that the natatorium not be part of the final plan that gets approved. But before putting a final stake in that, we wanted to, just kind of inform people of what it is. I think the fear of the unknown was a problem for the natatorium in the first place. I remember one of the people saying, "Oh, this is going to be like an Eagles game letting out after every Saturday," and it's certainly not that. So I thought it was. I think this could be a real benefit for the community, um, understanding that the community also has concerns, and the concerns mostly, in this case, have to do with hours of operation and specifically traffic. So a couple of those things will be touched on tonight. But I'm going to hand it over to the PhilAquatics guys, and they're going to kind of run it. And this meeting will be focused really just on the natatorium, not necessarily the rest of the development.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you for the opportunity to introduce you to PhilAquatics. My name is Mike Morgan. I'm the chair of the board of directors of PhilAquatics. We're super excited to share our vision and plans with PhilAquatics Aquatic Center and talk about the many ways we believe it will serve and benefit the residents of Euclid Township, Chester County, and Greater Philadelphia. At its heart, PhilAquatics is about community. Our volunteer board came together because we believe water has the power to improve lives. Swimming is not only a critical life safety skill and a lifelong sport, but it's also a pathway to health, wellness, rehabilitation, inclusion, and connection. We also recognize that a project of this scale naturally raises questions. That's understandable, and frankly, it's healthy. When something new is proposed in a community people care deeply about, residents should ask questions and expect clear answers. Tonight is an opportunity to share who we are, why we're doing this, what we've learned, and how we believe PhilAquatics can serve the community for decades to come. Our vision is to enrich lives through a community-based, state-of-the-art, multi-pool aquatic center that promotes health, wellness, education, recreation, rehabilitation, and competition. We want to create a place where individuals of all ages and abilities have access to opportunities that help them live healthier, safer, and more connected lives. Importantly, this aquatic center is about much more than swimming pools. When people hear aquatic center, they often think about competitive swimming. And competitive swimming will certainly be a part of what happens here, but it is only part of the story. The center is being designed to serve children learning to swim, seniors seeking low-impact exercise, individuals recovering from injury, people with disabilities, families looking for healthy recreation, students, athletes, and community organizations. Success for us is not measured simply by how many swim meets we host. It will be measured by how many lives we improve. We believe this center can become a lasting community asset, one that promotes water safety, supports physical and mental health, provides rehabilitation and wellness opportunities, creates gathering spaces, generates economic activity, creates jobs, and serves residents for generations to come. I'd like to take a moment to share my personal why. Swimming has been a part of my life for as long as I can remember, as a swimmer, lifeguard, instructor, coach, parent, volunteer, and community leader. Along the way, I've been fortunate to learn from extraordinary coaches, teammates, and families. Aquatics gave me friendships, life lessons, opportunities, and experiences that shaped who I am today. I think all of us on the PhilAquatics board feel the same way. That's why we're here. We owe a debt of gratitude to the people and programs that enriched and shaped our lives. That's what inspired us to create PhilAquatics. We want future generations to have access to those same opportunities and benefits. We're not building this aquatic center for ourselves. We're building it for the next generation of kids, families, seniors, and community members who may never know our names, but whose lives will be healthier, safer, and more connected because the center exists. PhilAquatics is a 501c3 nonprofit organization governed by a dedicated volunteer board of directors and supported by advisors, ambassadors, and professional partners. I encourage you to visit our website, read our bios, and see who our advisors and ambassadors are. It is an impressive group of people, all of whom believe in the power of aquatics spectrum of programming to transform lives. Our board includes leaders with expertise in business, health and wellness, education, community organizations, nonprofit management, and real estate. While we bring diverse professional backgrounds, we share a common commitment to creating access to the life-saving and life-enhancing benefits of aquatics programming. We secured initial funding, conducted extensive due diligence, and assembled an experienced team of professional partners, including Isaac Sports Group. Stu Isaac brings aquatic center expertise. He is a Michigan man with personal experience in both Chesco and Delco as a swimmer and coach, and professional experience across the country, probably world. Dunleavy and Associates, Marta Kiesling and Diane Mallory, and Diane is here, bring governance and development fundraising experience to Greater Philadelphia. Mirtha Pools, Pete Tarnapol and his team build community, U.S. Olympic trials, and Olympic pools. Olympic Summer 2024, Mirtha Pools hosted PhilAquatics at U.S. Olympic trials at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. Spillman Farmer and Architects. Credit Dan Harrigan for the name PhilAquatics. We have worked diligently to turn this vision into a reality. Our team has visited and studied 12 successful aquatic centers across the country. We wanted to learn directly from communities that have already traveled this path, what worked, what didn't work, and how these facilities have evolved into valued community resources. One of the most encouraging lessons we learned is that these aquatic centers became much more than places to swim. They became gathering places. They became health and wellness resources. They became community assets that impact lives in ways their founders never imagined. That is our aspiration for PhilAquatics. We have worked hard to develop a vision that reflects both community needs and industry best practices. We are proud to partner with Rockwell Development Group and many others who are helping make this project possible. Most importantly, we view tonight as part of an ongoing conversation. The strongest community assets are built with community input, and we welcome your questions, ideas, and perspectives as we continue this journey together. Thank you again for being here this evening and taking the time to learn more about PhilAquatics. I will now make the presentation relay exchange to Stu Isaac of Isaac Sports Group, who will walk you through the details of the project, the facility, and the program we envision for PhilAquatics, and that will be followed by Q&A.
Thank you, Mike. This presentation has a lot of content. Often some of the slides are a little wordy. We're going to try to really highlight the key points, share a lot of pictures, a lot of images, but we wanted to make sure there was a lot of content in the slides themselves because we know this presentation will be reviewed after it's posted on the township website. So I think that's very important that we try to convey this, not just for those of you in the room, but for others that may be watching or have a chance to look at this in the future. Here's a quick outline of what we plan to cover today. You can see that we've already checked a few boxes there. I'm going to start with the community concerns and challenges, and then we're going to talk all the different elements that really help describe this complex and address your questions, your challenges, and some of the concerns we've heard through public media, through Facebook, through the different township planning meetings. So you can see we go through. I want to highlight that we will have questions and discussion at the end of the presentation. We'd like to get through this and then save your questions for the end, and then we'll be able to address them, and we can go back to relevant slides and any other additional data we may need to respond to your questions. When I do these meetings, I always keep a pad handy because I always learn something from all of you at these meetings. I learned some input, ideas, concerns, and I always come away from these meetings with ways to improve the aquatic center, the community access, the programming. So if you see me step away and make a few notes, that's why. So the challenges and concerns, you can see what is in it for the community? What kind of community programming do we need? What will it have? What facilities and amenities are in this other than a pool? The community accessibility. How can Euclid Township residents and community and the school district use the facility? The impact of events and meets. We know you have concerns about that. We'll talk about that and try to clear up some misconceptions. We'll talk about traffic and parking. Talk about financial sustainability. We've had questions, how can this really be sustainable and not end up being a burden on the community in any way? We're going to talk about environmental stewardship. I know that's a big concern, particularly on this site. So that is something we'll also touch base on as we go through this. Now, we've talked about community programming, but I want to try to put this in what I would call a more relatable format to understand the comments we really hear from people. For example, how can I use the pool? I'm not a swimmer. Why would I want to use this pool? What would it do for me? How can one pool meet our community needs? As Mike mentioned, this is really 5 different bodies of water to meet all of community needs, well beyond just the competitive or training component. I like the programs, but they're never offered when I can be there. I love to swim, but I never can find a lap lane when I need it. There's a meet this weekend. I can't use the pool. A lap pool doesn't meet our recreational needs. The water's too warm. The water's too cold. You get the idea. All things, I can't breathe. The air's not good. All these things are things we try to address through the programming model. And these are all things, if any of you have used aquatic facilities, I'm sure you've experienced 1 or 2 of those concerns along the way. So I always like to start with programming. Before you can talk design, before you can talk the management model, before you can talk the user load, you have to understand how the facility is used and programmed. And I want to start with all the things we've built into this model and then the designs that support them. And I'm going to start with community. You can see water safety, fitness, health and wellness, recreation, fun and family, senior, active aging, inclusivity. And that means all the different special needs programs, neurodiverse, all the things that can go into services that often a lot of our aquatic centers these days don't offer. Aquatics has really become a critical component. And one of our board members who's here, Stephanie, is an expert in this field. So we really have made sure we focused on that because these are programs that are not really embraced by a lot of the facilities in the area. And therapy and rehab is a natural extension of that. And then I want to stress that although this is a not-for-profit, no real connection officially with the township, we feel it's really important to be a good neighbor. So one thing I wanted to mention to you that we factored into the programming model, as you can see in the last bullet point, was resident discounts and priority registration for programs. In other words, you get a first crack to sign up for swim lessons and not get there too late or have to wait till midnight when registration opens. Very important benefits that we think are critical to being a good neighbor with Euclid Township. Then we get into the competitive side, sport, but also certification and lifestyle. Training our lifeguards, training our swim instructors, creating career paths in aquatic opportunities and jobs. We've got all the competitive training. That's swimming, that's water polo, diving. And then the school district use. Very important that we touch base on that because as Greg Lingo mentioned to open this meeting, it's part of the purchase agreement with that responsibility to deliver the pool for the Downingtown area school district. When I say dry side, that's my sort of shorthand for all the things that aren't in the water. I want you to make sure you understand this doesn't include gymnasiums. This doesn't include sport fields and things. This focuses on the dry side support facilities in the aquatic center that support the programs, the aquatic related programs, but also support community access. You can see It's classroom meeting space. It's meeting space that's accessible for community residents, for organizations. It has everything from meetings to the upper right-hand corner, birthday parties around the pool. We've got fitness facilities. This is not a facility that intends to compete with the YMCA or Lifetime Fitness. What this is for people that have an aquatic focus to take care of their needs because they'd like to have some of these fitness, workouts, strength, cardio, as also support the teams, even the high school teams that may be using this pool. Lobby, good security, access control, concessions, and very important because as Rockwell Development and the town have worked together, you can see that there's a lot of green space that's been incorporated into the overall design. And you'll see this when we show the site map later. But this is very important because we want to make sure this aquatic center and the site layout does connect us to the trails and the green space so we can help support all those activities. This is kind of the fun part. I want you to just understand with some of these images, this is a series of collage slides. I'm not going to talk through except to call out a few notable items. Mention that a lap pool doesn't meet our recreational needs. Well, you can see there's all kinds of activities here. Health and wellness. I want to make sure we've got pictures of cardio rehab, the therapy and rehab. We've got special needs. We've got Paralympics. All these things that really help us in overall health and wellness, particularly as we explore a partnership with local healthcare providers to provide these services, at the aquatic center. Learn to swim. That's clearly got to be one of the most focused elements of this. And we're not talking about just kids. We're talking about adults. We're talking about adaptive swim lessons for those with special needs, group lessons, private lessons, all the things that go into this that are really in demand in this market. We're seeing a growing, shall we say, a growth of for-profit swim schools that are very high priced because the public facilities or the membership-based facilities like the YMCA, they offer these programs, but not as robust a program as we're looking at. You'll see later in the design that we're designed in a purpose-built swim school pool that would be ideal, including the temperature, the depth, the staging. Very important as part of the overall community programming of this aquatic center. I mentioned rectangular recreation. That's my nickname for what you can do in a lap pool. We've got log rolling in the upper left-hand corner. I'm working on a project in the Pacific Northwest, and that was really popular, I'll tell you. We've got, earlier you saw a climbing wall, but here you've got inflatable obstacle courses under rectangular. That's a dive-in movie, showing movie with kids floating around. Great popular events. Again, community and family-oriented. We've got underwater hockey. For those of you that are Flyers fans, underwater hockey has become a real trending sport, believe it or not. And that's not offered in this market yet, but it's becoming very popular. So you get the idea, a lot of fun. Aquatic fitness. Most of you, when you think aquatic fitness, will think about what's in the upper left-hand corner. That is a traditional senior aqua aerobics class. But look at all the other things that are happening now. Yoga balancing on floats in the pool. Cross training, that's a cross-country team training in the water. The middle lower screen, that's a high school football team in preseason training. So all these things that can happen. Hydro spinning, who would have thought? And it's a great thing. We're seeing this in Europe. We're seeing it starting to grow in Canada. It's really just starting in the US. So lots of things that broaden the base of what we can do in fitness and wellness. Competitive aquatics. This probably goes without saying. I've got masters in the middle, but you see Paralympics, you see triathlon, you see age group swimming, you see water polo, all the things that can happen. Although this is relatively a small percentage of the overall programming at the Aquatic Center. Really important that at this point we mention equity and accessibility. You can read these elements, but I want to stress that equity and accessibility is more than just meeting ADA codes. This has been designed to meet all our ADA and exceed all our ADA codes. But accessibility, community accessibility is also about financial components, all the different obstacles to participate. And we want to make sure we really have touched all these bases in accessibility. I want to take a moment to talk about the school district. When the deal was done with Rockwell, one of the key things that was brought up is, now we want a 50-meter pool. And they were thinking the swim team. They were thinking traditional high school use. That's about this much, a very small percentage of overall what can be done in the high school. And we're really looking forward to having the opportunity to work closely with the Downingtown Area School District to develop more of these components. Check the first box. That's kind of the low-hanging fruit. District-wide programs. We work with a lot of projects across the country that have a program where every second grader in the entire school district gets free lessons as part of their PE program. We talk about adaptive and special needs. A lot of that would be working with the CCIU, the Chester County Intermediate Unit, which manages a lot, and we have a representative from the CCIU here tonight. Lifeguard, water safety, other certification programs, after-school activities. I want to really stress those last 3 bullet points. This, with all the things we're doing here with kids, youth programs, with senior programs, the opportunity for our school students to put a lot of their community service hours that we're all required to do in use with a lot of the programs and the accessibility they will have to be able to work with the Aquatics Center. Part-time jobs and internships, very important, very important. And of course, life skills development. That's really all part of everything that can become together. And we see this in many good partnerships between private aquatic centers and school districts. I'm going to go back to this slide because now I'm going to talk about scheduling. In the blue, how the heck can you fit all that into this aquatic center? Really good question. And hopefully we'll show you how. How can one pool meet all the community needs? Well, you just saw that. There are never lap lanes. There's never a time when the whole family can use the pool. I like programs, but they're never offered when I can do this. I want to stress that when we develop the program model and the design that supports this, here are key priorities. We have to balance organized and scheduled programming with free time, open swim, family swim. You can't have a successful and community-focused facility if every single part of the pool, all the pools, are always just designed for programming. You've got to have the free time, the open water, the space. That's a real critical point of our scheduling. Concurrent and simultaneous programming. That addresses another one of our comments about, I can never swim, there's a meet there. We want to make sure, and this has been designed, so when there's swim meets, you can still swim laps. We can still teach swim lessons. You can still have open water. We can still do therapy and rehab. When a team is in the main pool, they don't use all the lanes. We still have open lap lanes for community use. These are all things that are very important. A aquatic center, a well-managed, well-programmed, and financially sustainable aquatic center cannot succeed without this opportunity for concurrent and simultaneous programming. That's critical. So we talk about, I just mentioned this, can events and daily user group programs and community access coexist? Absolutely. As I mentioned, we can separate the traffic for an event and for our daily users into different pools, different circulations, even breaking up so that our users and our members aren't using the same locker rooms as a bunch of 10 to 16-year-old age group swimmers that are coming to a swim meet. Families like that. Facility opening hours. Our current target during the week is 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And Saturdays, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Sundays. That's actually less than the Lionville YMCA and the other YMCAs, and not by much. They opened a little bit earlier. A Lifetime Fitness, they opened quite a bit earlier, like at 4:30, when you look at the Lifetime Fitness in King of Prussia. So again, reasonable hours that really fit our demographic and our user groups. I don't expect you to be able to read this, but we talked about how can we fit this all together. This is what we've done for weekdays during the school year when the high school swim team is in season, during the summer, Saturdays, Sundays. This allows us to really understand how we can program the pool, balance that programming and lane usage with open swim. This is a key critical element to how we manage this facility, and it reinforces how the design supports the programming and schedule model. The yellow, that's lap lanes. And you can see there's always lap lanes available when all these other things are going on. We've been asked about membership. Big question. Do I need to be a member to use the pool? No. Yes, there are memberships. You can see a lot of different categories, but there are day passes. You can just walk in and swim in the pool. You don't have to be a member. That's very important because we don't want this to be even a membership-based facility like a YMCA. This is a very open community, although there will be benefits for memberships, which include discounts, program and rental discounts, priority registration also for members. It's really, the business model has us positioned kind of in the mid-range. So actually, our initial projections were a little less expensive than the YMCA. So we're really trying to focus this on very market accessibility. But I want to go down to that last bullet point. We will have financial assistance and scholarship programs available for those in financial need that cannot afford our programming. That would be membership-based. It could be applied to membership, but it could also be applied to swim lessons or aquatic fitness. So I wanted to make sure you understood that that's a very important part of our business and membership model and user model. I'm going to go through this quickly. We mentioned the different pools. The main pool, that's where a lot of the competition and the rectangular recreation occurs, as well as the swim meets, 79 to 81 degrees, ranges from 4 feet up to 4.5 feet up to 13 feet where the diving is. Our community pool, that's program, that's aquatic fitness, that's leisure, that's some recreation. That's warmer, 83 to 84. We've got the spa. Yes, there's a whirlpool, there's a hot tub. And we got the swim school pool. That's the purpose-built school I mentioned for swim lessons. That's at 90 degrees. That's really important because we find that lessons, when they're taught, particularly for the young ages up to 6 or 7, we get about a 40% increase in kids signing up for lessons and going back and taking more lessons when they're in warmer water. The for-profit swim schools are all in that range. Public lessons, YMCA lessons, we don't have that warm water available because they don't have these multiple pools. And then we've got the Therapy and Research Rehab Center, which would be a partnership with a potential healthcare provider. The wellness pool, that's the therapy and rehab pool. Again, 90 degrees. We got the fitness area. Again, not huge, but a heck of a lot bigger than the fitness area in the Spring Hill Suites I'm staying in, down the road a little bit. But nothing like a Lifetime Fitness or a Y. Again, meeting the needs of our users and our memberships in the members in the aquatic facility. And then the community meeting space, which I showed you earlier. Events. This has been, I know, a big concern. There'll be thousands of people attending meets and events every weekend. That's not quite the case. We have probably 4 weekends a year that meet our max capacity, which is spectator seating of 1,000 people and deck seating for participants of about 800 on the deck. That is your competitive swimmers, your coaches, your officials. That only happens about 4 times a week. Then we have, yeah, well, okay, that was your first test. I know you're listening. That's good. That's good. I'm happy to hear that. When I do these at the PhilAquatics board meeting, I'm not sure everybody's always listening. So, so you can see. And then in a later slide, I'll show you how we then go down to the average capacity and the small capacity. And you can see how the majority of days through the year are these small meets that may be 150 to 250 spectators and 100 competitors. Here's a question. There is a meet this weekend, I can't use the pool. We already addressed that. You've got 4 other pools. We can separate the traffic flow and the circulation. The traffic at the, I want to use the aquatic center during meets, but I can't find parking. Our business model does have dedicated close-in parking for our regular users and members and swim lesson participants during events. So that is always parking, daily parking set aside that the event won't be used for the event. Because that's a big concern I see at other aquatic facilities that don't plan this far ahead. The traffic at the start and end of the meets really causes a big crunch. You're used to thinking about sporting events, basketball game, a hockey game, a football game that starts at a certain time and ends at a certain time, and all the spectators come all at once, and then they leave all at once. High school swim meets are like that, but that's a really small crowd. Major swim meets, the max and average capacity meets aren't like that in USA Swimming. They have a start time, but a lot of swimmers know they're not going to swim till an hour and a half into the meet. So a lot of the traffic is not lumped into that half hour before the meet starts or half hour after it ends. It's spread out. So we don't have that huge bump, that huge load descending on the facility and the access roads all at once. Very important to think about that most people don't think about because they haven't had the experience as a parent sitting around with their kids at a 4-hour swim meet all day, and the kid swims 3 times for about a minute each. You know, so again, a little different nature with swimming. Also, I mentioned buses. These days, teams really don't come to meets. Some high schools do, but when you talk to the bigger meets, USA Swimming, club meets, diving meets, the competitors aren't coming by buses. They're coming with their families, they're coming with carpools and things. So this is one thing, we don't have a high bus load projected, nowhere near what we have, you know, just coming out of the Downingtown East High School every day. Quickly, types of events. You can see all the different things, very broad. The vast majority of swimmers at our events are going to be 18 and under. This is not huge crowds. It's really family-oriented, youth-oriented, grassroots, as well as regional championships. But again, the majority of users are the young kids. Just want to show this, and as we ask questions, I may go back to this. But this gives you an idea of the max capacity, average capacity, and small capacity events. You can see we may have events ranging from 65 to 85 days a year, but most of those are the small events, usually only a 3-hour meet. Maybe it's a high school swim meet for 2 hours. So a lot of these things, it's not this massive where they takes over the entire meet. That happens for 4 weekends a year. So now let's get into the parking traffic. We talk about, yes, how will this increase? Daily traffic at the aquatic center is really spread out throughout the day with max traffic after school and early evenings, which coincides with some of your peak use. Morning traffic during rush hour only averages maybe 100 cars max at the peak through the whole hour. In the presentations and submissions done by Greg Lingo and the Rockwell development team, they have done a fantastic job of creating the traffic load patterns, and we've offered all of this input into them to help design this. They have recently updated their submission, and it was just submitted to the township on Friday. So you'll see a lot of new mitigation and recommendations that Rockwell will do to help control this traffic, to help manage this. And I believe, from what I hear from the township, it was just posted today. So you can take a look and see what some of the new mitigation and recommendation items there are. What I wanted to stress as I read the report, all 750 pages of it, don't worry, the traffic part is only about 27 pages, if I remember, Greg. So, and talk to their engineers. They really are required under PennDOT to really make sure that after the development reaches peak use, that the daily traffic use is better than or equal to what it was before the development. That's why you see probably 7 or 8 key recommendations about streets that are widened, about different traffic flow, adding turning lanes, things like this. So if you're really concerned about some of those things, fantastic information in the new submission document. Like I said, the traffic component is only about 27 pages. This, I've already talked about the general. If you want to get into the detail, we'll have this. This gives you an idea of during the school year, what the average load is at different times of the year. So again, big range because it really fluctuates during these times. What we wanted to do is also share, how does it work when we have events? You'll see that when we have a max event, we're maxing out our parking, but we've still set aside 75 to 100 spaces for daily use. And you can see for each of these levels, average capacity, small capacity events, this gives you an idea. One thing I wanted to point out, there's 500 spaces right now in the plan for the Aquatic Center. We only need 500 spaces for our 4 weekends a year, combining events and daily use. This allows us to really have shared use parking to support parking for the trails and the green space on the development. This is the overall development, most recent drawings. You can see the Aquatic Center is in that kind of the sort of that south central area with the orange area with all the parking around it. When you look at this, you can see that the low impact trails really have an ending spot right by our parking, so that when we have excess parking available, which is 340 days a year after the, not including the mass capacity events, plenty of parking access for community use, public use of the trails and other amenities that will be provided in the green space in this development. Environmental stewardship is important. I wanted to call out the aquatic specific elements of this. Water conservation, very important. We've taken a look at the kind of aquatic management systems, filtration systems, state-of-the-art filtration systems, regenerative media filters, which aren't used in many facilities in this area. Those filters compared to the traditional sand filters that require backwashing allow us to probably reduce our water consumption and discharge the sewer by over 1.2 million gallons per year. That is huge, very important to take into account. Water quality, these filters also filter down to 1 micron in size compared to 15 to 25 microns in size in our traditional filters. Air quality, we have a source capture system built in, which is state-of-the-art, only been used in about the last 8 years. And what this allows us to do is filter out the bad air much more efficiently and exhaust it. And it results in incorporating less overall outside air. Again, saving energy. If we can save 1.2 million gallons of water a year that comes in at 50 degrees from your water source that we have to heat to 80 or higher, we just saved a heck of a lot of energy. If we can reduce by 10% the amount of air, outside air, again, we've reduced significantly our heating costs, our use of electricity. So these are all part of our saving initiatives. As we get further in the technical design and engineering, we'll certainly look at alternate energy. That's a little premature now without really understanding and getting into that next high-tech engineering design phase. This is an expensive project. I've taken a look at this. I've focused it out to $2028. That's about as far out as I feel comfortable in projecting, because we're already seeing bids go out for projects that are going to start in 2027 or even early 2028. So I have a good feel for this range. That's a big range in there between 68 and 80. A lot of it has to do with some decisions, design decisions, structural decisions and things. But this gives you an idea. The one thing we will not skimp on, not compromise on, is air quality, water quality, and the tank, the pool itself. Because if you do that, if you skimp it all here, you're going to have bad air, bad water, and your facility is probably going to fall apart because of how, a little bit of a corrosive environment. I want to make sure that we emphasize that we're investing in that state-of-the-art technology. Management, almost done with this. I want to stress that we have the same concerns, challenges, and misconceptions. Pools always lose money. Not true. Bad managed, bad designed, bad programming pools often lose money. The pool is poorly maintained and always needs repair. The pool is closed again to fix the heater and the filter. We can't find enough staff to do this. Again, all these things are questions that I hear that we try to address, because we've generated an operational budget projection from the bottom up, but vetted it against all the successful and some not successful facilities around the country to vet and to really make sure this is based in reality. That's why the PhilAquatics team has visited over 12 different facilities around the country. We want to invest in professional management and training. We've got diversified revenue sources, but the second last bullet point, long-term capital replacement and maintenance reserve. The budget model has money set aside every year that really creates a reserve fund, because we know and we can anticipate that the heater is going to blow up in 10 years and we need to replace it. We are planning for that. We don't want surprises. This is where I see a lot of, particularly public pools, stumble because they haven't planned that capital reserve. Any revenue, this is a not-for-profit. When we are, after about year 3, we're financially sustainable, we're operating in the black, but any of that money is invested back into several components. Our financial assistance and scholarship programs, our program development, and paying down any debt incurred in the building of the facility. The money is all reinvested. This is, and that's what a good not-for-profit does in a facility like this. Job creation. We have full-time jobs. We have part-time jobs. Probably over 100 to 140 part-time jobs ranging from 8 to 29 hours a week. Swim lessons, lifeguards, instructors, front desk. Huge opportunity. And those aren't just for young people. We're seeing a real trend that we have a lot of active adults, seniors that are working part-time. I see it at lifeguards at the YMCA. Very important, community-based. We have internships, career training, life skills development. In the first 5 years of this facility, we will generate approximately $9.8 million in wages, salaries, and benefits of those working at the Aquatic Center. Mike, I want to turn it back to you, kind of do a wrap up and hit the Q&A.
All right, great job. Thank you. And the next couple of slides, we just wanted to highlight some of the things for Euclid Township and community. Mostly, we want to be a good neighbor. The bottom line, good neighborly relations here. Identifying things along the way that Stu had talked about, discounted membership and user and program fees, priority registration, because we found in other communities that's always, thing opens up at midnight and like he mentioned, it's full. We want to provide as much as we can for local Euclid Township to benefit from that. Job creation, certainly opportunities there. And we want to serve the larger greater Philadelphia region, again, as it relates to Euclid Township. It's bringing things here. It's good for business, for these hotels, for the restaurants. What you might see as a cost in terms of traffic and parking, there could be overall benefit, and we want to be there for you in service and hospitality to this community and a good neighbor and partner with you all. For more information, you can check out with this QR code, which we also have on our sign here and sign out in the lobby there. So you can check that. We hope you will go to our website and check out about us and our bios and our story and how, what we've got going on. We're proud of it, what we've come together with. And with that, we'll move on to the next. The Q&A. I just want to say we understand and appreciate that you have questions. We will answer your questions. Issues, we will work to resolve your issues. Problems, we'll work to solve your problems. Risks, we will mitigate your risks. Concerns, we will address your concerns. Opportunities, we will create and seize. And recommendations you will make and we will consider. We can't always say we're going to make them, or take them, but we want to work with you as a partner. And we're committed to being proactive and responsive now and later and always. We're always available anytime for anything. And with that, we'll open it up to Q&A. I think we need to come up to the microphone to ask your question so it's captured on the live in the archive. We could pass this around, and do we have the other microphone for us to answer? Okay, you do that one. Okay. All right, we'll stay
Test,
stationary.
test.
All right, and this is Stephanie, who's our vice chair. Thank you. Come on, share the mic.
Thank you. My name is John Lager. Live in Valley View. I'm one of the people that actually butts up against the property that is subject to development. Want to thank you for coming out tonight and sharing this. I have to tell you, I'm trying to catch my breath. This is really not what I expected. We were under the impression that the school district wants a pool so that it's available for their swimming and diving teams, and maybe some other things. I didn't realize we were talking about a regional aquatic center that costs $80 million. That's going to be serving people all throughout the Philadelphia area. That's going to be open 16 hours a day, 365 days a year. And we're going to have, as a benefit, traffic and people coming in, staying in the hotels and using the restaurants. It's frankly not what I thought it was. Sorry to share that with you, but it looks to me, and this is just my opinion, this is turning into an aquatic center with a housing development attached to it. The other way around was what I was expecting, but I'm open to hear, I'm sure they are too. What do you all think? This is not what I thought. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm John Coral, and I live in the Downingtown School District. I do not live in Euclid Township. I live in the border township. So when we talk about being, good community relations and well with the neighbors and so forth, this township intersects as Pikeland Township, Euclid Township, Whiteland Township. Those are neighbors. They're part of the Downingtown School District. I have two things. I think this is a wonderful idea, and I appreciate all the effort you put into this and all the knowledge you bring to this, and I think aquatics are wonderful. If this wasn't located right where it's planned to be located, on top of the housing that we're going to basically have to live with one way or another, I think it's a wonderful idea. And I know you've done a lot of research and so forth. The problem I see with this is, if I have a pot of water that's 210 degrees, it's still water right there. Add 2 more degrees and it becomes a boiling pot. That's really what we're talking about. We already have massive traffic jams, and I do not depend on any PennDOT study or any PennDOT work to solve these problems. We are going to have problems. We already have. And PennDOT hasn't fulfilled the problems down Eagle Farms Road that we were all promised when that developed. So those are my concerns in the neighborhood. And some of this is safety. We're all talking about these children in this school district. This is definitely going to be safety hazards, not the natatorium, but just the overall traffic pattern and everything that's going to happen, because it's going on top of traffic that's already bad. So that's my basic concern. And the other concern I have is, why do only members of Euclid Township get the discount when I pay substantial taxes at Downingtown School District, have no children in that school district, don't object to that.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be affected by everything else that's done in Euclid Township, as we already have been with that warehouse.
I appreciate your comments, and as we're listening, and I'm already thinking it's Downingtown area school district that can get those benefits, that not just Euclid Township. But we want to be as low. The point is to be as local as we can, but local expands, as we say. It's adjacent to many boroughs and townships.
No. One of our challenges is we have not, because of how this has been progressing and in conjunction with the developer, we have not really had the chance yet to engage directly and substantively with the school district, which is where those conversations will come up, how they want to use it, how it can be benefits and use can be prioritized for the entire school district. So we're very aware of that, but we haven't really gotten to the point where we can have those discussions pending a lot of these, initial steps.
How much of the budget projected for this facility is going to come from the Downingtown School District? What will their responsibility be to it? Because that eventually comes right back to my tax.
In the initial agreement, it was factored in that they would be paying some type of rental use in this. The overall revenue for this facility, anything that would come from the school district, is a very small portion. Give you an example, how we prioritize community. Swim lessons is 24% of total revenue. Users and membership is about 28%. Events are only 13%. Rental from swim teams is, again, in that 20% range. Again, haven't worked out those details yet with the school district, but because of the agreement, we know that that will be a significantly discounted cost to the school district. What we're looking at is, what we don't know is how broadly the school district will want to use this. Will they take advantage of all the opportunities? We see successful school districts with an aquatic program, special needs programs that use aquatics. So these are great questions. We just haven't gotten to that point, and it was not quite ready to be at that point to have those substantive conversations with the school district, but great question.
Hi, I'm Maria Denon. I live in a neighboring community, Upper Euclid. Just for like little informational but different, Upper Euclid has a barn that, that's been on a farm property for years. They turned it into a rental facility, basic for township. So Upper Euclid members get to rent it for free, but anybody else, like in bordering neighborhoods, bordering townships, they do have to pay whatever the rental fee is. From a Downingtown area school district perspective, I have 4 kids. 3 are now out of Downingtown. 1 is going to graduate next year. All 4 have swam at the Lionville Y, which over the years, it also being a 501c3, has been a bit of a muck of madness, because 2 high schools share the pool to practice. And over the years, we do pay rent. The rent has gone up over the years. We have also, the school district has paid for the lane lines along with the Y. The school district pays some, as well as the families who are paying for the membership, the swim team fees. They also do fundraising for the lane lines, the flags, and some of the other equipment in the pool area. Our local Ys cannot meet the need of the townships that go to it, which Lionville Y is Upper Euclid, West Whiteland, all the surround, like ones that it's kind of easy to get to. But because the programs there are not managed well sometimes, we end up at Phoenixville Y, at Westchester Y, at Upper Mainline Y. So the school district, yes, they do pay rent to the Lionville Y, both east and west. I will say it's well over $15,000 for an 8-week rental that we basically do, because we are literally there from November to maybe the mid-February. And it's just too small to accommodate the growth of the community that the Lionville Y supports. We also have, yes, there's a lot of families that move into the area, but we also have an aging community that wants to stay put. I'm 56, my husband is 62. Heck, we joke about giving our kids our house and us moving into a 55 plus community, so we could stay local and they can have our house. But I want to stay here, but I also am active and I want to do things. And I'm involved in swim. I've been a volunteer parent. I've been a official, and I want to stay in that. And this is a great opportunity to do that. I think this can be a very overwhelming presentation, especially if you have no idea what this kind of facility can offer. in Pittsburgh, in Upper St. Clair Township, which is very similar to our community. They have their Upper St. Clair Recreation Facility, which is very similar to this. My brother and sister-in-law took me to see it last year, and it is very similar to what they're talking about. It is an indoor pool, which primarily there is lap lanes and a lazy river that children use, but also a lot of adults go walking through the lazy river for pool walking. And I don't know, they don't have the high schools using it because fortunately their 4 local high schools all have 8-lane pools with cool down lanes as well. So they can accommodate that within their high schools, which unfortunately we don't have here. Shanahan goes to Tell High to practice and have swim meets, Bishop Shanahan. East and West right now are sharing 5 lanes for 2 high school swim teams because 1 lane is open for lap swimming. But this, if you want to go look at something, Google Upper St. Clair Recreational Facility, and it is beautiful. And it also includes a lot, predominantly mostly all outdoor space, which they have summer camps at for kids in the communities to do outdoor recreational type things. And it's a beautiful thing. But from a swim parent perspective, we have a lot of awesome swimmers in this area. 2 kids locally that went to prelims for the Olympics last year, the last set of Olympic trials, and many more. I know that a lot of kids want to do water polo, but it's not available really close to here. We have to drive over an hour to get to that. Master swimmers, if you're not familiar with it, are anybody that's 22 up to 90 years old. I went to Phoenixville Y has an event every year where they have master swimmers come. And I got to time a 90-year-old man who swam 1,500 meters, which is like, I always forget, like 60 plus laps. And it was phenomenal to the point where I want to volunteer for that meet every year. So be open-minded. I know that the traffic is an issue, but we're looking at alternatives of something to do with that problem besides that 55 plus community. And we're looking at warehouses and data centers. And a data center is going to use up a lot more water than and heat and electricity than an aquatic center. I don't know. And the aspect of having a rehab center in it for non-weight bearing rehab would be a dream come true from my point of view. Thank you.
Great
Thank you so much.
comments. And I really appreciate that. You made a point about how the 2 high schools, Downingtown schools, use the existing Lionville YMCA. And you mentioned they've got 5 lanes. They have limited time. They really don't have room for growing the team, creating more opportunities on the swim team because they can't crowd any more kids in those lanes. And they're getting more and more pressure from YMCA members to take back team lanes because the members want more use. So this gives us an opportunity. In that scheduled matrix you saw, we have 8 to 10 lanes for the high school team. We've got a longer period of time, and we still have the lap lanes available. So again, you pointed out some real important items in demand, but also I'm glad you broadened it to all the other things that can happen for the community. Very good points. In some of my past research and visits here, I have attended swim meets, particularly at the Phoenixville Y, but I get an idea of how packed it is and how upset the members get when they have to give up their pool. So thank you for your comments.
I would just really quickly add that as we've toured the country, all these in Pennsylvania, Virginia, Florida, Indiana, Illinois, all these states, all these aquatic centers, we're looking to bring the best of all these, and they all met some resistance and some challenge from the community and overcame that in different ways. And we want to do that here and hopefully meet what you guys would want and need for your community. But there's so much benefit, so it can outweigh the cost, that there are going to be trade-offs and there are things to consider, but we want to work through all those and be open to discussion. All right, next, you got
My name's Caitlin Connect. I'm a lifelong resident of Euclid Township. My parents still live right across the street from Downingtown East, and I have been involved in the swimming community for my entire life. My brother drowned when we were younger, and since then, it's been a huge lifetime commitment of mine to teach as many kids to swim as humanly possible. I have coached since the moment he drowned. We went on to coach, and you would be astounded to know how many children do not know how to swim. I have 5 children of my own, from 5 to 15, so I have a very crazy house. All 5 of them are on the swim team currently. The 5-year-old kind of makes his way down the pool, but we are very involved in the community of swimming. I can't stress the importance of teaching children how to swim and teaching adults how to swim. It's been part of my heart for my entire life. Right now, my 12-year-old has to drive. I drive her to Upper Marion Township Pool twice a week from 8:15 until 10 p.m. for her to swim long course practice. 10 p.m. for a 12-year-old is ridiculous, but she is so committed to swimming. Many of these women know her. She's intense, that she will do it. But because there's no pool in this area that can accommodate long course swimming, which is so important. My 12-year-old also is a huge diver. I drive 55 minutes to Ridley High School for her to dive. There's nothing around here that gives us those opportunities. And as a tribute to my brother, I said, I will do whatever it takes to get an aquatic center in this area, because it is so important to have every kid know how to swim and to give the competitive edge to some of these children. Traffic will come, the resources will come, but everybody's got to learn how to swim. Right now, I volunteer as a coach for Downingtown East. We are the only sport in Downingtown School that asks their kids not to come to practice. We ask them, please don't come to practice. Go to your clubs, swim there. We don't have enough space for you. What kind of camaraderie does that have for the children in those practices? They show up to the meet. The club swimmers show up. Nobody knows who they are. They swim the events because they're good at them, because they swim club, and they get out. The only sport in all of Downingtown that requires that, because we can't fit 60 kids in 2 lanes. So it's really important to me.
Thank you for sharing. I'm sorry about your brother, and that's unfortunately more common than you'd think. And that's where it really comes down to in our society about gun violence and drug overdoses and drownings. So we seek to drown proof. It's safety first. Swimming is a skill that can save your life. It is a sport for life. It is a friend-making machine. We're passionate about it. We look to give back and pay it forward to make community impact, hopefully here in Euclid Township and the area. And we're looking for board members and advisors and ambassadors, if anyone might be so inclined, as we work together going forward. Yeah, no, I hear you. And that's where we're on the other end of it. Our kids are out, and this is not about us and even our kids. I say this is not about us and our kids. We're being altruistic on this, that we really believe, big about what we're trying to accomplish. Yes.
Yeah, hey, I'm Bruce Kautsky. I also own a property that borders the property in question here, or I live in a house that borders the property in question. So I'll just say that I was a competitive swimmer for 12 years, so I appreciate all the concerns about kids being able to swim and having access to that. Actually, where I grew up in Colorado, every single high school had its own pool. I came here and I was kind of in disbelief. But nonetheless, my concern over the proposed aqua center here, as some people have mentioned, the traffic and everything, and I certainly deal with that every day like everybody else. I'm a little bit concerned about this being serial number 1 for you guys. So I know you've been around the country and you've made a lot of observations and taken a lot of notes and everything. But the fact is, you're 10 or 12 board members, and all the work that you've put into this is serial number 1 for you. And I'm concerned that the assumptions that you've made are going to pan out properly, whether it's the traffic predictions, whether it's the income or the expenses, the upkeep. and so forth, I'm a bit concerned that that's really been not just vetted, but experience means something, right? So if you've done this before, it may be a smaller, smaller facility. I mean, $80 million facility, this is a big deal. And I'm just concerned how you guys have prepared when you don't have the experience of doing something like this before.
Yeah, again, we're a volunteer board of directors, and we've come to this point where we've engaged our professionals along the way. They're the ones that have the breadth and depth of experience elsewhere, that we can gauge that through our relationship with them, networking, collaborating with all those success stories around the country, learning from their successes and challenges and failures. So with that, I'll turn it over to the expert here.
Of the 12 facilities around the country, the PhilAquatics team has visited and looked at and engaged with. We were involved with half of those as part of development. We have done projects over the last 16, 17 years of this scope, some even larger than this scope, around the country and in Canada. So again, for a lot of these folks, they've seen these facilities, but they've never developed one. That's why they've engaged us and our team for the last 4 years to be working on this project and bring that experience from projects, successful projects around the country. Many of these that once they're open, we still stay on as consultants because we know our job is not done when it opens. It's there to follow through, to learn. So we've learned the good, the bad, the keys to success, and the risks for failure from a lot of these components. And that's part of our job to bring that to PhilAquatics with our team. And a lot of our sub-consultants working with me have experience in managing facilities. That's the real important connection. It can't be theoretical designs, which sometimes we get from an architect. It can't be wish list from the local advocacy group. We've really got to take and bring people to the table that have run these facilities, not just in our role in designing and developing them, but learning from the people that have run these facilities. And that's why all of the visits we've done haven't been to go in there to say, oh, what would you do differently? That's one of the biggest questions you ever hear when you visit a facility. But meeting with the management people, understanding their budgets, understanding about how they raise the funds for it, how they support the facility. That's a really important part of all of the visits and all the networking we've done with facilities around the country. But a very good question and a good observation.
As we've looked at this as like design and build and then operate and maintain. And on both, we're looking for expertise in both those areas of the whole timeline of what it would take to deliver this and operate and maintain it. We've met with people that aren't even our official partners. Eastern Sports Management, we were just talking about ESM today. They manage these facilities. So we've talked to them already. We've seen some places that they work with because their expertise, and it's critical in terms of once you have it, you have the facility, then you need to have the programming, the scheduling, all the things that it's going to make to run a business and a nonprofit. Okay, next.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Barb. I appreciate your enthusiasm, but since none of you is a neighbor here, I'm wondering if you, A, have reached out to emergency services. Like, I live down the hill from where you're proposing this. If I need an ambulance and it's during one of these meets, it's not coming to me. What have you learned from emergency services to make the neighbors near you safe?
Very good question. I know in Rockwell, when they were meeting with the township, the police department was very involved in those conversations and in the meetings. So usually in the next design phase, and even in the submission from Rockwell right now, there's very detailed layout of the emergency paths for the vehicles to access the facility without obstacles for fire, for EMS, and things. Very important. One of the things, when we talk about programming, it's very important to develop those partnerships. You're correct.
I'm sure you're protecting your building. What I'm concerned is if it's a 55 and older community, there's going to be a lot of ambulance activity going in there. If you've got aquatic traffic blocking that access, I think that's a concern. And I know Rockwell? We talked about this before because adding that many homes is going to put a huge uh, a burden on our emergency services. So I'm sure they're looking into it. But adding that many cars to get in the way of where Euclid Ambulance lives right now and the houses of the neighbors that are in this building, I think that needs to be considered. It's not about protecting your building as a neighbor. It's about protecting our neighbors. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say.
And one of the new elements in the traffic plan was opening up a secondary entrance at the far opposite end of the site to do that, so that there's access to the whole development at the far opposite end. So we're not, so there are ways to get into that. Greg, I don't know if you wanted to answer that quickly, because that's more of a broader whole site. And
Well,
I know you've spent a lot of time in addressing those issues.
We have met with emergency services several times so far as we're setting up our plans here for the community. The design of the community isn't complete yet. So until we know kind of which way we're going, we can't fully solve for all the concerns. But there's no question about it that we've met with them. We understand what their needs are should this community get approved.
because you're already adding with your homes to the burden. So this on 5, 10, 15, 20 weekends a year is just going to make it worse.
Yeah,
So I appreciate the diligence on that. And all of us who use ambulances or ever need it, we need you to do that.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
I'll say things I've just been in as a competitive athlete and coach. They're actually on site. They're there for the facility, but able to get to, the hub and spoke model to get out
Great.
to.
So
they're
my
there and closer.
88-year-old neighbor needs an ambulance and they're sitting at your facility.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, and they won't be able to, like, that's just not right. So you need a better thing than I hope. So speaking of traffic, you're saying, oh, it's only 100 extra cars on our small road. Okay, that's 100 cars from your site, like your thing. At most, I sit behind 2 cars or 3 cars in the morning getting to work right there at the intersection. Okay, 100 extra cars is going to dramatically increase the amount of time people are going to take to get to and from places. I think that I guess the bottom line is, like, because my next question is, you're reducing water consumption by 1.25 million gallons. How much water consumption are you using if you're reducing it by that?
Part of the submission, oh, sorry. Part of the submission, and it's very detailed, provides exactly that. We worked with the Rockwell's team's engineering, and really is probably more concerned about wastewater discharge than the water consumption. We don't use that much water in the pool because we're not draining the pool. We don't drain the pool regularly at all. That would be a lot. A lot of traditional pools, YMCA's with different systems, drain the pool every year or every 2 years. We don't do that. But the actual detail, and I don't want to quote numbers because it is very detailed, laid out in the submission in terms of water consumption, not only for the aquatic center, but for the overall development, as well as wastewater discharge to make sure we have the capacity to manage this.
Okay,
Yeah.
because like I said, a lot of us that are neighbors live downstream. And there's a very big fear that our wells are going to run dry or you're going to pollute our streams. Okay, so that's important.
Which
to
was
me.
really specifically addressed in the submissions.
And so I guess my biggest question is, I totally agree that people need to learn to swim, and I'm terribly sorry for your loss. That's horrible. I've been to many swim meets as a spectator. I get it. Okay, but why can't you just build a smaller facility? Please don't put the burden on all of the neighbors, especially when you guys don't live here. So that's my request. Make it smaller.
We have board members that live in Chester County local, where you live, Steve. He's Upper Euclid.
Yeah,
You don't have to deal with this.
well, I go on that road township, which called about Township Line Road. Is that what, no, it's called Lionville Station Road. Yeah. And I've been on that many times. Of course, these meets that we're talking about, they're going to be on the weekends, not during the weeks. It wouldn't affect the work, going to work Monday through. I know everybody has different schedules, obviously, yes, but I think that with the way we would get in and out of the parking lot, I think would be fine. And like Mike said, usually at big meets, there is EMS on site. And if they're right there and something happened in the community, they could be there in moments. Yeah.
Just one of the misunderstandings there was that we're not using well water for the community. The community is going to be served by Aqua, so public water, not from the well. Okay.
My name is Doug McCord. I'm a 50-year resident of Euclid Township, so I've watched a lot of development go on here. One item, it is not a given that there's going to be a over 55 community. It still hasn't passed the Board of Supervisors, so I wouldn't talk so confidently at this point in time. You mentioned the facility will cost $80 million. Number one, where's that money coming from? And number two, who will hold the title to that property? Are you going to have a chunk of land that is in whose name? That's the first question. I have about 3 or 4 here.
We have a license to sale agreement with Rockwell with PhilAquatics between the two parties.
But
For
who will
that.
hold the title?
We will. Yeah, we're PhilAquatics, the nonprofit.
Okay, so PhilAquatics will own the property.
There's 12 acres, 9 of it will be part of this project, but that parcel of the overall, not the whole thing. Clearly, you got to develop what they're seeking to get approval for.
Okay, and the 80 million, will that be mortgaged or do you have something?
That's going to be a combination of, as we work with all these others and seeing what they've done, we've got a capital campaign to come with Dunleavy Associates that we want to plant the flag and rally around it for this particular location if we were to get the green light go. But it would be a combination of working with corporate sponsorships and healthcare partner and all kinds of creative ideas, and not a government facility, but there is money in Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for an aquatic center in a, what is the acronym? I forget, not a block grant, but something. It's there's like a $5 million peg for aquatic center in Chester County that we know about. So a combination of things and creativity to get there.
Okay, will you be required to come up with that 80 million before you start building?
We got to talk through that one. I'm going to talk about that.
Usually in a program like this, and Greg, I noticed you were reacting to that because obviously the developer doesn't want us to start and run out of money. Usually, and we have our fundraising consultant in the room with us, usually we find a certain acceptable limit that we've raised a certain amount of money and have the perspective to raise additional money. Much like a university, it may start a building when they've raised 70% of the money. Pretty much standard in the private sector. So this is something that will be worked out, and in conjunction with Rockwell, in conjunction with our whole funding methods, we're looking at ways to, as we look at donor funding, we know that often those pledges are spread out over 5 years. So we're looking at resources as to how to monetize a long-term, not to exceed maybe 5 years, gift of some sort, a philanthropic component. So these are all things that are really part of the next stage of development. We personally at ISG have worked with quite a few projects that have been totally privately funded and at this kind of scope have succeeded and successfully managed this, both in terms of raising the capital for construction and managing it in the long term.
Just, Diane Mallory, I'm with Dunleavy and Associates, and my background is fundraising. I do a lot of fundraising for various nonprofits. Just to echo what Sue said, again, it's a variety. It really depends on a number of factors, but I think, Sue, you're spot on with what you said. We're very careful. We already have a prospect list, if you want to call it that, of people who have expressed an interest, whether it's individuals, corporations, state, local money that might be available, RACP money. There's all kinds of sources that we're certainly going to be looking into. Foundation support. There's support from foundations. So it will be a broad-based fundraising effort, and we will determine that threshold, because that always is something that is a concern of when can we break ground? How much money do we need to have in hand? All of those kinds of things. But we're very sensitive to that, and we already have started putting together those plans. We've been working on that for a couple of years, really.
Since Rockwell everything revolves around what Rockwell's doing, is the facility at all affected by the Rockwell's going back to court requesting a price reduction from Downingtown? They're going back asking for a $3 million reduction in price, on this private sale for the property.
That's above our pay grade to answer. So
It's the PhilAquatics piece is unrelated to our purchase price with Downingtown School District.
So can I ask you something?
Sure.
My name is Ralph Powers. I live, I don't know, half a mile down the road from you guys. So I just want to get and I appreciate the presentation here, and I want kids to have opportunities that I never had, but I do have some concerns with traffic. Number one, I mean, that's whatever statistics are being thrown around here with regard to, it's not big of an impact. We're already crushed with traffic right now, so it's not going to get, it's just going to get worse and worse, and I don't care what anybody says. But so when you were coming to an agreement with the school district, did they say, hey, it would be nice to have a natatorium as part of your purchase? Is it like a must-have or a nice-to-have? Like, just give me a quick.
It's part of our agreement with Downingtown
Okay,
School District.
so when you were negotiating with them, so that was part of the agreement
It
from
still is
day
part of
one?
it still is part of the agreement.
From day one.
Correct.
So are we moving forward with this, Nat, no matter what?
I don't know if you're here for the beginning.
Yeah, I've been here since the beginning.
Okay. Yeah, so the plan that we've submitted. So we submitted a plan back in February of 2 years ago.
Yep.
Which was a by right conditional use plan, which was about 1.8 million square feet of warehouses.
Mhm.
That plan wasn't received well publicly. So we came back to the drawing board with a 55 plus plan.
Yep.
Initially
and
for
I've been going to some of these-
about 750 homes and the natatorium.
And I remember some of those discussions.
And the most recent submission is 491 or 3 homes,
Yep.
55 plus designation.
Yep.
And it does include the natatorium still. So that's
Okay.
that's what was most recently back up. We were in front of the planning commission with a higher number of units. The planning commission recommended a lower number of units and no natatorium. We modified the plan a little bit, still have the natatorium on there, and we significantly reduced the number of residences.
Okay.
So that's what's going to be in front of the Board of Supervisors next month. And if that plan doesn't go, then we do plan on going with the by right plan.
Okay. I mean, I hope it works out for everybody. I'm, like I said, I'm half a mile down the road, but it's just big, I mean, it's
Understood.
going from one extreme to another. Pristine farm to a lot of stuff.
Totally appreciate it.
So,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me address a comment, and it goes back to your comments, John, about size and reduction. When we first started this process, Greg just mentioned about how you've reduced the number of residences. We reduced the seating capacity and the event capacity by 33% to get it down to our current model. We reduced the square footage on the facility by approximately, I think it's 15 to 16% of the total square footage. So we have already downsized, and the height. Yes. One thing when we talk about the agreement with the school district, they wanted in the contract a 50-meter pool. A 50-meter pool without the opportunity to teach lessons and things is not a financially viable facility. That would have cost hundreds of thousands of dollars a year for the school district to run at a significant loss. The ability to add these community programming, the user and membership benefits, the lessons, all these things in a multiple pool facility is what allows this to be successful. If we just stick to what was only that 50-meter pool, it was going to be a significant burden on the operator, particularly the school district.
Sorry. Is Lionville Station Road going to be continued if this, project goes through? Is that still road be maintained as a thoroughfare from 113 down to Byers?
Yeah, generally Lionville Station Road, we're going to redo it and it's going to generally stay in the same location. It slides a little bit in a couple places, but it's generally still that same north-south road. In addition to that, we've put under agreement unrelated to the Downingtown School District parcel, 17 acres up by Haywood Drive so that there can be a connection east-west to Lionville Station.
Gotcha. There won't be a traffic light going in there at all, will there?
No, the traffic light's not, according to both our our experts, traffic experts, and those consultants for the township, we did not deem that there's a traffic light needed there.
But the bottom line is Lionville Station Road will remain open in some capacity once everything is said and done.
Yeah, not in some capacity, it's going to remain open. Yeah, it's the same. That road's there and it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I'm just asking because
So just so I'm clear, the right to buy, that means the warehouses, right?
Yeah, so if you hear a developer say buy right, nothing's necessarily buy right. It's what's permitted under the current zoning.
What the zoning is.
Correct.
Because I don't know if any of you had attended the forum that the school district had when the warehouses were going to go up. And that's where a lot of the discussion on what else could be put there. I've lived here now for almost 24 years. I'm originally from Delaware County. I have driven through this part of Route 100 my entire life because I had an aunt who was in a convent in the Reading area, and my dad was a back road driver. So I have literally seen the development. I mean, I didn't live here all those years. I've lived here for 24. But I've seen the development around here and have gone, oh my God, I remember the drive-in movie theater, and the videos that were recorded there for MTV. I remember there just being a Kmart and stopping in there on the way home. So I get that this has seen urban sprawl. I'm from Delaware County. I met my husband. He lived in Westchester. We looked out here. We liked that it was off the beaten path, but still close enough to get to the turnpike. My mother and father moved out here from Delco, and they were originally from Philly. And they moved out here once I had kids. And we went to their apartment and let the kids swim in their pool until they were old enough to join something else and go to the Y. Would I love to see that farm stay a farm? Oh my God, one of my suggestions was to see if we could get it as a reserve and have the buildings turned into places that the kids could go learn about the history of the area. But the reality is that's not what's going to happen now. And I would rather from that discussion that many people took part in see it be a developed area than just warehouses or worse, a data center, which many of our surrounding communities are fighting right now. King of Prussia is fighting it. Up the road at Applecross in that area, if you're familiar with where Applecross housing development is, they're fighting a data center development right now. And the energy, they might not bring traffic, but they will bring a lot of environmental impact. I get it. I plan on being a lifelong resident here. And I don't want to see our beautiful areas and farms overdeveloped. I don't. But there's a 55 and over community that was built off of Font Road and Little Conestoga, and it's huge. And there's one down by West High School, which Rock Raymond Road gets a ton of. I've sat there for 20 minutes trying to get my kids to school some days, and there's an over 55 there, and everybody stops so that they can make sure people get in and out. And there's a little itty bitty 2-lane road Rock Raymond is, not to mention St. Martha's Manors over there too. I understand it. I totally do, but something's going to happen here. And it's unfortunate that we have to figure out what's the lesser of the two evils.
This township seems to be a lightning rod. Really, really difficult decisions. I doubt that there's anybody in this room doesn't want to see young children have the opportunities to swim and really progress and do all that, and seniors and people with disabilities to be able to use aquatics. I doubt that there's anybody that really objects to that. But this township, in the middle of COVID, approved a warehouse which lies unused a few miles up. Before that, Vanguard owned that property. They owned it when it was sold there. And I guess there was a bog turtle or something, so nothing could be done. We could have had the Malvern campus of Vanguard there. That was one. Then this warehouse thing comes along, and we were told all these, we're going to 350 tractor trailers. I think there might be one tractor cab or trailer that's parked up there. I don't think it's in use. 2 other warehouses supposed to be built on that property. My concern is, why can't we get better land use? So then, 55 community on Lionville Station Road would be one thing. The Natatorium, why can't the Natatorium be where that warehouse is, which will probably be a pickleball club, because nobody's using it. Truckers don't want to come in and out of here. And this township, this board, they spend time and they have to figure these things out. And so there's all these projections done and all these statements are made and so forth, and they don't necessarily come true. We've just seen it. Until they change the tax law, we're not going to have the reuse of existing warehouses. They're just going to sell them after depreciation is gone and build the next one to keep rolling the money up. It's stupid, the land use, the way it's done. So I just wonder if the Downingtown, oh, by the way, the Downingtown School District did petition this board to change, I believe, to residential zoning on the property you're looking at, so they could have built their school way back when, and that wasn't going to be done. It's still light industrial, and they will require easements to build warehouses of any size, which hopefully they don't get.
I know it's early days, but what you're thinking about timing, are you talking about building whatever structure at the same time houses are going in? Just, we're talking about this wonderful facility and all these houses. What's realistic in terms of when we're actually going to see people living in these houses and using the facility?
So that's a really good question. The question was timing. As part of our agreement with Downingtown School District, the Natatorium parcel we're supposed to purchase the property in 3 different takedowns over 3 years. The Natatorium parcel would be part of our second land takedown with that. No telling how long it'll take to get whatever plan fully approved. And then even after it's approved, there's other outside agencies. We have to make sure that sewer connections and PennDOT and everything else is there. But this property wouldn't start for at least a year after we buy the first portion from the school district.
For the aquatic center, design and permitting probably is a year. At least construction on a project like this is usually 18 to 24 months.
Hi, I'm Donna Russell. I live in Euclid Township, and I've lived there for 40 plus years. I do have a little question for you, Greg. So when I was at I've been to many of these meetings. At the one planning commission meeting, I know part of your agreement is that the Downingtown School District is requiring you to do a natatorium. Does a natatorium necessarily mean a facility of this size? Why isn't it enough? And I support the swim parents totally, because I know they've had issues over the years. But why does it have to be this huge center? Why can't it be a center that, you know, is helping the school district to meet your requirement, you know, so the teams can practice? But why does it have to be on a national level? Why can't that, a smaller facility, serve the needs of the community and also maybe help with the increased traffic issue that we have in this area? At the intersection, and I'll give you an example of 113 and Peck Road, at different times of the day is backed up all the way up to the intersection of 100 and 113. I don't know what's going to happen when this gets built, and that is a huge concern for us. I'm actually thinking that maybe we don't want to live in Euclid Township anymore, and it's sort of sad. I mean, I've lived in West Whiteland Township, where I grew up, and now in Euclid Township, and I've certainly seen the building. And the thing is, I understand what you have to do in order to make this a viable project for yourself, but a center of this size, I have great concern. And I thought the Planning Commission sort of decided this wasn't a good idea. So I was a little surprised at the breadth of this facility. I thought it was going to be scaled down a bit. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Yeah, thank you for the feedback.
Hi, my name is Carly Sarak, and I live in Upper Euclid Township and neighbor Euclid Township. I was a competitive swimmer. My children are competitive swimmers. I have a long history in that genre, I guess, for lack of a better word. But I feel like the community isn't educated on swimming, competitive swimming, and what a facility like this could bring to the community. I feel like you're hearing traffic, 1,800 people, capacity. It does not look like that. I lived in Northern Virginia where there were multiple facilities like this, some even larger than this. And you do not get the amount of traffic and the concern that you're all anticipating and hearing when you see a presentation like this. You're seeing, you know, you're thinking like a sporting event like he has described, and it does not look like that. The starting times are staggered, as he mentioned. This is not 1,800 people coming in a half an hour time slot. This is over several hours throughout the day. Folks are rolling in and rolling out. They're coming and going. And as he mentioned, this is a few times a year that it's going to look like this. And again, you're not thinking a concert where you've got thousands of people all funneling in or funneling out of one road or one facility at the same time. This is not going to look the way you're all envisioning. And unless you have swim experience or have lived in a community that has facilities like this, you don't know, and you see these numbers and you get scared and you get worried. And I hear the concerns about the emergency folks, coming and going, but it does not look like that. It truly doesn't. And I think, this is an opportunity to build partnerships with, local medical folks, with other local community groups, so that you may actually have more access to emergency facilities. You may have more access to different events and different things that you can't see right now. I think all you're seeing now is the numbers. I think you're seeing how this is going to maybe impact your day to day, and you can't look at the big picture. And I get that. I get that you live in these neighborhoods, and I get it. But it's not the impact that it looks like on a screen. Again, it's a staggered type of traffic and population that you're seeing. We're not going to be holding the Olympic trials at these facilities. Like, let's be real. This is not Indianapolis, and I think that's what you're all envisioning, right? It's not going to look like that. This community has outgrown the aquatics options and opportunities in this area. There are thousands of kids in this area that swim, and this facility is needed, and it's not going to have this massive impact that it looks like on that screen. And again, unless you've lived it and you've seen it, you don't know that. And I get the fear. Thank you.
Thank you. Real quick, I grew up in Virginia, in Fairfax County, and I lived in Loudoun County, swam at the University of Virginia, and those communities cannot imagine not having these facilities. In fact, they're clamoring for more, especially Loudoun County. I was part of that design in 2005. Major resistance countywide about that. They can't imagine live without it. Now they have Claude Rec Center, Dulles South. They're adding another one, and it serves all the high schools. And that's a fast-growing county there with lots of traffic issues and data centers galore, and they're totally against that. So I guess again, you say the growth is happening. It's a matter of how you want it to go and what you want to do with it, and we hope we can be a part of that. Yes.
Okay, I'm Dave Fertel. To your point, to the previous commenter's point, I don't know swimming, so I understand what you're saying. It's all very obscure. And to me, and you probably have numbers to prove me wrong, it feels like a very niche community. This is your life. You understand swimming. Swimming is important to all of you. Not really to me. I mean, we swam growing up. We swam when there wasn't anything else to do. So maybe you can address the broader community, if I'm right, if this is more niche, and drill down on some of the proposed programs that you're envisioning for the rest of the community. Have you identified a healthcare provider? You mentioned on one of your slides. And if so, or even if not, what is the vision with that healthcare provider? What is it that you see providing to the community with that healthcare provider?
Our best example of a healthcare partner is Beacon in Indiana, and that is a co-located facility with therapy, rehabilitation, on-site. So it just ranges. It's also a matter of what we're able to do zoning-wise. If we can partner with a healthcare partner, it could be a major hospital network that's looking to expand out this way, already has that. It could be a physical therapy practice that's looking to do more. So we want to be able to be on site if possible, but that has to be something that community wants, needs, and the local government approves for the zoning. He went through earlier lots of different ranges, not just swimming, not just competitive swimming, not just training and competition, but like 13% of the revenue comes from that source. But Stu, I think, can address a lot of the other programming that would be for everybody, young and old, healthy and wanting to prevent and rehabilitate on both ends of that spectrum.
I appreciate the question. And what we try to do is capture some of that early in the presentation. We always want to make sure we understand that this facility can't be everything for everybody, but there is something in this facility for everybody. There's something here for everybody. We want to make sure that not just the people that swim laps or compete or train, we know that there's a huge other world of aquatics. That's why when we talked about these things, we've developed these are high talking points. When you look at water safety and fitness and wellness, lap swimming, senior swim lessons, all the things we talked about. In our business plan, we've got those quantified. We've got a really understanding of how that structure works, what kind of volume, what kind of rates, what the programs would look like. So again, without wanting to make this a 4-hour presentation, we have a lot of that detail that we've developed in conjunction with PhilAquatics and local aquatic stakeholders, developed these programs over the last really 2 to 3 years. So we can certainly create more in-depth because we have it. That's why we had that spreadsheet. That's why I have this spreadsheet, which you can see, again, you won't be able to read this, but you'll be able to look at it when this presentation is put online at the township. All the different programs, outside teams, user club groups, school programming, community programming, in-house programming, swim school, the outside program providers, people that are not, are coming in like a scuba company that might be coming in to provide scuba lessons, although it's not offered by the aquatic facility, it's an outside provider. So we have very detailed program models that I think would address your question. And I think if you go on the PhilAquatics website, you'll see a lot of those more fleshed out. in terms of the program detail. So that QR code you saw at the end of the presentation, we'll give you a chance to look at the website and understand a lot more of those programs. Because again, a facility like this cannot succeed without those programs. It cannot succeed with just competitive aquatics. We know that.
Can I speak to that a little bit?
This is Stephanie Graff, who is our expert in health and wellness, special needs, a wide range of expertise that she's brought to this project.
Thank you, Stu. So first of all, I'd like to thank everybody, because what this tells me is that there's curiosity, right? Curiosity in a community that is loved, that you're all passionate about. What brought me to this project is not because I'm a competitive swimmer. I do have children that have found competitive swimming as their sport, as their mental health. It got them through COVID. It got them to opportunities of greatness just by the nature of the sport. Why I am here on the board and serving the board and to be in front of all of you tonight is to advocate on behalf of the special programs that we are going to be offering the community. I'm a physical therapist of 26 years. I've worked and served across the lifespan of individuals, from early intervention, babies, birth to 3, 3 to 5, through the school districts, to working at Bryn Mawr Rehab as the aquatic director, working with individuals with sustained brain injury, spinal cord injury. I've worked at Jefferson Home Health. I've worked in autistic support classrooms throughout a school district for 12 years. So they're the communities that mean something to me in terms of how aquatics supports them and includes them and brings them to community. I am also a member of the American Physical Therapy Association and a special interest group member of the Aquatics Special Interest Group for the American Physical Therapy Association. I just returned from the International Aquatics Therapy Conference in Toronto, where I was presented by 17 different countries of research experts on aquatic therapy. The benefits to aquatic therapy are overwhelmingly positive, and the research continues to grow across all the populations, from children to individuals past 100, and the benefits. I left there with a staggering statistic. So we're talking about healthcare. By 2030, which isn't that far from now, our healthcare systems internationally, globally, are not going to be able to have the capacity to serve the aging population. That's the research. What do? We need to make sure that we are providing ourselves with the wellness and the opportunity to age gracefully, but also maximize our health and wellness so that we don't have the capacity in our EMS centers, right? And our hospital centers. So it's really important to me as part of this project that we do partner and collaborate with healthcare partners that share the same vision. School districts, IUs, and I'm so grateful that Dr. Siobhan Levy's here representing the CCIU, and I asked her to speak a few moments about the collaborative opportunities that we seek, not only with the partners that we introduced you tonight, but our community partners in health and wellness, as well as education. I currently am a physical therapist, as I said, but I work on behalf of the state of Pennsylvania for early intervention. So although I'm not doing physical therapy directly, I do make sure that our earliest learners get the access to what they need so that the future generations of education and the opportunities in education are equally available to them. And aquatic therapy is one of those ways that we can give children with special needs and disabilities and developmental delay those opportunities. So thank you, Siobhan.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure and honor to be here this evening. Again, my name is Siobhan Levy. I have the pleasure of serving as the Director of Student Services for the Chester County Intermediate Unit. And if I had to take a poll, I'm sure some of you have family members that have been served by the Chester County IU as we serve kids from birth through adulthood. Our team was approached by the PhilAquatics team around supporting students with special needs in terms of water safety. We have, unfortunately, in the county, we have some first responders here. In the last several years, we have had drownings of young people with autism, and our partnership with this center would provide another resource and option to ensure water safety across the spectrum of children and adults with disabilities. So I don't underestimate the difficulty of such a decision like this in your community. But we at the Chester County IU, which we do consider ourselves a strong partner to the Downingtown Area School District and all the 12 school districts in Chester County, that this would be a really special moment in time to create a community where water safety is the standard and not the exception to protect the young people with swimming skills. So we do have several facilities ourselves in Chester County. You're probably familiar with many of them. We're building a very large center right off of 202 near Certainty and St. Gobain, but we can't possibly have a pool in our facility because of the other resources that are needed. We have a small pool, and I mean a small therapy pool in one of our buildings. It's used all the time, and it is the joy of the students. They light up like it's Christmas morning when they have the opportunity to swim in the therapy pool, but it's not enough to ensure water safety. So our goal in partnering with this group, and hopefully it is something that can happen, is that not just the competitive swimming, which has been discussed at length this evening, but also a systematic program across the county that would allow for water safety to be something that is the standard in the county, and safeguard the young children with autism and other disabilities that don't have these opportunities. So thank you for having me tonight.
Great comments. And let me add one more comment to this. We ask why this facility needs to be so inclusive. All of these programs, right now you can find services throughout the county, but you may have to go to this pool for one, this pool for another, this pool for swim lessons. Oh, the team practices over here. The ability to bring this all under one roof with an integrated and transition so we can do physical therapy and then mainstream patients to the regular fitness programs. We can take kids from learning to swim into programs, into swim team. We can take those, however you're using the facility, there's a transition. You can do things. You can have a family come in where family members are doing different things. This creates an efficiency. To build these facilities in multiple locations would cost much, much, much more. So that's what we see from our research around the country. When you can bring it together, you have more efficiency, you have better provided services, and it's a more cost efficient and a better overall benefit for the community.
I now am in a very well-preserved township called Edgemont Township. They're pretty good at preserving basic things like that. I was advocating as an active member of Edgemont Township when this facility had a consideration in our township. I was advocating to the administration and the people there, let's get them here. This is something that very rarely you have development. Any development is going to get resistance, but there's very few things that can go into a development, go into a community that is accepted for and benefit every person in the community. There's just very few things that can facilitate benefiting everyone. And whether it's the aquatic program for swimmers, or the special needs, or the healthcare systems, there's very few things that can benefit everybody. As I said, I was advocating in our very well-preserved open space township to do something like this because it is such a benefit to the community in so many ways. There will be, as I'm sure they cover, about 12 days a year, maybe 15 days a year, there's extra traffic. You know, and that on a tomb road is also going to attract things, businesses, and other ways that the community will benefit revenues. And I don't know about you guys, but I was pretty proud going up to Newtown Square. To have Newtown Square on the map a couple weeks ago for the PGA Championship. And that was a sense of pride to many people to have that exposure. But it didn't change Newtown Square. And this wouldn't, I don't think, change the township in any way other than better for so many people. Thank you.
I haven't apologized to the microphone.
How about now? Oh. My name is Laura Obensky. I am currently serving as the chair of the Euclid Township Board of Supervisors, and I just wanted to thank everyone and express a large amount of gratitude for everyone that's here tonight. I believe the gentleman over there expressed the sentiment that we have been a lightning rod for difficult decisions over the last few decades, and several involving this specific property. I think I maybe wasn't old enough to vote when some of those were made, so I won't take responsibility for that. But I do want to express my gratitude for everyone that's here because we are all busy. We all have families. We all have children that probably just graduated or that have sports. We have beach houses that we want to get to. And I know that the Euclid Township building is probably not your first choice on a Tuesday evening. If it's even Tuesday, I'm not really sure. But as I look across the room, it's really striking me. I'm seeing members of various committees that we have within the township. I'm seeing neighbors from across the township that I have met with on various number of issues, including this one. We've shared coffee, we've gone on walks, we've talked about pros, we've talked about cons. I'm seeing members of the swim community. Coach Kate left a little bit earlier. She actually taught my daughter to swim, and she watched her swim one of her very last high school swim competitions a few months ago. And my point is that I'm really appreciating the community that is in this room, whether you're bringing one perspective or another. I don't know if you've been on the internet lately. If you haven't, don't do it. I don't recommend it. But being here in this room and raising these concerns and asking these questions is ultimately what is going to make whatever plan is presented before the board in the coming weeks stronger. It's going to make us more informed. It's going to make us more understanding of the challenges that all of us are facing. And I would just really urge all of you to continue evolving as the information evolves that's presented to the township. This has been a long road. Information has changed. Things have changed. And I know how frustrating it has to be for people that are not used to dealing in the land development process all the time. It's convoluted. At times, none of the choices are looking like good ones, but we have to talk about it and work through it together. And I just appreciate the questions that have been raised. I want you to continue asking them and reaching out to the board members for clarification. And I absolutely want to thank PhilAquatic and Isaac Sports Group for coming in for the presentation. I am very eager to have the school district participate in these conversations. I think I've been very vocal since for the last couple of years how much of an opportunity we have in Euclid Township. We have 6 Downingtown area school districts within the confines of Euclid Township. We have thousands upon thousands of students that are within our boundaries on a daily basis. And I see it as an opportunity. It brings challenges. Clearly, through this process, we've had challenges. I am not immune to them. You have all experienced the challenges. I just urge that we keep the lines of communication open, that we work together, and that we address the challenges head on so that we can ultimately come up with the best possible situation. So thank you all for coming tonight, and I want to just encourage you to continue talking about it, reaching out and asking questions. Thank you.
So thank you again for all of you for coming and watching live and later your broadcast. It's very important to listen and to learn and participate and be part of the decision-making and leadership experience. And thank you for your leadership and service and coming tonight as a representative from the Board of Supervisors. But thank you for anyone. Any questions you have now? You have more questions? More questions coming? Yeah. Okay. Okay, good. Okay, we'll keep going. I mean, we're good. That's what we're here for.
Hi, I'm Dennis Martin, and I think all looks good. My whole concern of this whole project is the nuts and bolts. Some people were saying we look past the traffic. No, I drive Lionville Station every day for the last 42 years. I can't look past it. We're neighbors. We got to take care. What we do here, we can do something good, but we have to be very responsible. Traffic, water runoff, there's a lot of issues that have to be hammered out carefully. That's all I got to say, and I hope we can work something out. Thank you.
Yeah. I think close out.
Speaking of runoff, you mentioned that there'll be 500 parking spots, plus the runoff from the building itself. Will that be handled independently of what independently of whatever other facility there is, be it a over 55 or be it a light industrial?
So there will be a NPDES permit, which is a national permit that the Chester County Soil Conservation District issues. We have submitted our preliminary permit application to them, and we're starting to get feedback. But the whole community has a stormwater management system that's going to be in place. But each section has different types of places where we're controlling the water flow and also improving the water quality at the same time.
Well, I heard at one of the meetings that the holding tank will be under the parking lot.
Permittee on the stormwater management permits for their property.
Because as you probably well know, there are headworks of streams that ultimately feed into Pickering Creek, which is a high quality.
Absolutely.
Right now, Mother Nature has 200 acres to absorb that. Soon we'll knock that down to probably 50 acres.
No, there's well over 100 acres of open space,
Okay.
not including people's yards and other areas for perk.
And this will be my final question. I concur with a lot of people that the traffic problem is not solved by somebody in Harrisburg looking at a map. In the event that they do not have divine intervention of solving the traffic problem, will there be any type of monetary reserve, or even a bond to help correct the problem should the engineers not be on top of the thing?
So the process is we hire a traffic expert. That's what they do. And they take a look at our designs and give projections on traffic impact. We give that to the township. In this case, we gave that to the townships, the surrounding townships as well that could be impacted by this. And from that, a lot of really good productive things have come out. One was after we met last June of last year in a public setting, the feedback was, hey, you have to buy this other piece so that you can connect Haywood Drive to this community to help with traffic. There's been some other feedback that we've gotten. One in Upper Euclid Township where Route 100 meets Township Line Road. It looks like if we added a deceleration lane there, it would help. So there's a bunch of different things that they've pointed out that we're trying to incorporate in this plan. So there's been back and forth. We also met with PennDOT with both our traffic experts and the consultants' traffic experts from the local townships to do what's called a scoping meeting, where they talked about bigger picture things of when they have to close down part of 401 for an improvement or those kinds of things and how this would impact that. So they're all communicating in concert with one another.
Okay. I'd like to know where everyone from PhilAquatics will be in Rockwell when, in the event there is a problem, but I'll leave it at that.
Hi, my name is Rob Kratz. I do not live in Euclid Township. I live up in South Coventry. I'm very sympathetic to, the concerns, the traffic, the open space. I live in an area where there is a lot of open space still. I did want to highlight an interesting point about swimming pools in southeastern Pennsylvania. I grew up in Montgomery County. I went to Methacton High School. We had a swimming pool. Well, I don't know if every last high school in Montgomery County, but just about all of them, all the ones that I knew of, had a swimming pool. They were built in 60s and maybe some of them in the early 70s. For some reason in Montgomery County, everyone thought this was important at that time. the whole Reading area, all the high schools, Reading itself and all the high schools surrounding Reading all have swimming pools. The original pools were all built around that time as well. Since then, the larger communities like North Penn, Souderton, and Upper Dublin and up in Reading, Wilson, have redone their pools to swimming facilities that look like college swimming facilities. In Chester County, out of all the high schools, there are 2 high schools that have swimming pools. Owen J. Roberts and Coatesville, built around that same time, late 60s, early 70s. So, you know, the area has a history of really valuing swimming, and valuing aquatics. You know, at the time when there was this big push for it in the late 60s, early 70s, obviously Chester County was a very different place. It now looks more like those places. And, you know, I just want to highlight that statistic because these communities in these surrounding counties have really seen a dividend, a return on their investment with these facilities.
I just wanted to thank everyone again for coming and also remind you that the plans that were submitted have been uploaded to the township website for viewing. And if you did not have a chance to provide feedback or comment tonight, or if anybody's at home that wants to provide feedback, we did open the email lsr@euclid.com, which will be open till the end of the month for additional comments. So thank you all.
Thank you again. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening.